Yo, what is going on? Welcome to a new week, everybody. Today we have a super special treat. I mean, it's a great way to start your week. We have the one and only Steve Greenfield on the floor at CES talking about 2022 and 2023.
The people really want to know who I is and who I be. They stop and stare with me.
It's a way to start a week, man.
We're good. I don't know how to get all the people that listen on the podcast to look at the show open, but however many hundred people listen every single day, go over to YouTube or LinkedIn and see.
It's not there.
It's fun.
Is the show open? Is the 30-second countdown on the YouTube? It is.
It is. It is.
Oh, okay. Okay, you can see it that way.
ASOTU.be. You can also check out the year-end extravaganza there, of which our guest today was a part of. Steve.
Yes, he was. He was actually the last guest of the show. We're going to bring in Steve Greenfield. Actually, Isaac, why don't you bring him in on the floor at CES? And look at the background already.
Here you go, guys.
Unbelievable.
What you don't know is that he's actually standing on top of a trade show booth right now, which is why he's so elevated. I don't think he is. But it's your first CES, right?
Amazingly, yes. After all these years, I've heard so much good things about it, but I'm finally out here.
Well, we've made a pact that we are going to join you next year because
you guys need to be here. There's so much automotive content. It's crazy. And I think, what's happening is that as automakers are migrating away from the auto shows to do new product introductions, there's a lot of new product introductions here. So there's no shortage of interesting technologies out here to cover.
Yeah, we keep talking about this convergence of pop culture and automotive, and I think the OEMs are starting to recognize they have to meet pop culture where it is instead of ejecting everybody out of that, especially if they're wanting to become technology or software companies, right? Which you talk a lot about.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, they're making billions of dollars in investments in technology, and this is becoming the de facto event to showcase all that technology.
And talk about earned media, right? Like everyone's talking about it. You have multiple news stations like talking about the new Ram or talking about, the Sony Honda Mobility So I think like automotive folks getting involved and actually thinking of the dealer community, figuring out how you can harness some of that energy to bring it into your local community, into your store. Because look, until the wheels get to the ground from OEM announcements and tech announcements to people in your showroom, you're kind of left out. The dealers are left out.
Well, you mentioned that, but I tried to find a dealer for a panel that I moderated yesterday out here, and I couldn't find, not that I know every dealer in America, but I couldn't find a dealer that was attending CES. Which is kind of interesting, but I think at this point, it's not a priority, right? Yet. I think it will be in the next few years. Progressive dealers that want cutting edge technologies and exposure are going to be here and make some time. But right now, it doesn't seem, I don't get a sense there's a lot of dealers here at all.
Well, sounds like a heck of a prediction. Yeah. I was going to say, and speaking of predictions, it's not even on your list, but maybe if you had to remake it.
Right,
but maybe you would have put
that in somewhere. Tuck that in somewhere.
So last week you released in your monthly Intel report. If you don't get it, you need to get it. AutomotiveVentures.com. You gave us kind of yourself an honest review of your 2022 predictions, and then you laid out your 2023 predictions. So I think it'd be fun to just talk about 2022 predictions for a second, and then we'll ramp up. So what we're going to do is start at the bottom, right? We're going to start at the ones you gave yourself an F. Okay. Right, because you can handle that. Because you gave yourself the F.
I self-scored, so I'm good with it.
Yeah. All right. We'll start with number 3 in 2022, which was widespread commercial autonomy on the street. What happened there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're not going to get passenger autonomy in my lifetime. I will be dead before we have mainstream robo-taxis servicing consumers in every market here in the U.S. This is all edge cases we're looking at. But the interesting thing, whoa, there goes my camera. All right, guys, I'm going over to manual hold here. So the main thing will be, this is live television, right?
It's all good. The people on the audio version didn't even know.
Okay, there you go. So the main thing is, my prediction last year was by now we would see autonomous trucks all over the streets, especially on long haul stuff across the U.S. It just hasn't happened yet. We're on the cusp of it. You're going to see literally L.A. to New York, you're going to see long haul trucks and you're going to see autonomy, but we just haven't quite got there yet for commercial uses.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. The other thing you graded yourself an F, dealers awarded points for vertical takeoff and landing. Didn't see any of those this year, huh?
No, although you saw news this week that Stellantis is going to start building VTOL vehicles, right? So I think it's just a matter of time. But you think about how are consumers going to buy short-range electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles in the U.S.? They're going to have to buy them through dealers, and so dealers are going to have a new product to sell, which is going to be vertical takeoff and landing vehicles. I think I was just a couple of years early.
Yeah,
So
it's interesting. I was having a conversation with a dealer yesterday. They were like, with all these EVs, what's going to happen to service? And I was like, well, we're just going to replace it with other profit centers, I think,
Right.
and there's another profit center and there's a service profit center alongside of that. And I think dealers are going to get savvy with their profit centers. So, if I'm a dealer, if I'm a Stellantis dealer, I'm definitely kind of, eyes up above the surface right now for sure, especially after the announcement this week.
No doubt,
that is
it's
just gonna be
coming. But
crazy.
it
Okay,
might, it might be a couple of years off. Might be a couple of years off.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's move on to things you graded yourself an A in 2022, and then we'll move to 2023. You said 2022 will be the year of the EV charging infrastructure. Gave yourself an A. Explain that for us.
Well, most of it's the government stimulus, right? When we saw the Inflation Reduction Act and the billions of dollars are being spent trying to incent other consumers to buy EVs, which are starting to hit as of January 1st now, and or incentivizing sort of new charging infrastructure getting built out. I mean, we don't have the charging infrastructure needed for roads today, and we're going to need that charging infrastructure. So you're going to see trillions of dollars being spent on EVs, both the production of the vehicles as well as the charging infrastructure. And last year, we've just started to see the start of that.
And one more, 2022 will be the year of the connected car. You gave yourself an A.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of news we saw last year about unbundling features into subscriptions and all the consumer pushback has been crazy. And we're starting to hear that the dealer councils are starting to negotiate with the OEMs around what the revenue share is going to be if the OEMs can sell subscriptions subsequent to the purchase of the vehicle. But I think that all of that is going to be very buzzworthy at NADA here at the end of the month, because these conversations are happening real time. We don't know what the consumer appetite is going to be to want to pay for features on a monthly basis, but it's sure to be there, and there's going to be new revenue. It has yet to be determined how that revenue is going to be shared between OEMs and dealers.
All right. I'm going to let Kyle.
I agree that's going to be a big NADA. It's going to be a big talking point at NADA. I think some of probably your other your predictions for 2023 are actually going to kind of they're going to figure out their course at NADA potentially. I'm going to run down kind of the first three first, because they all talk about acquisition. So Reynolds and Reynolds is acquired. Tekion acquired by Salesforce, and Carvana acquired by Amazon. Those are pretty bold. I would say those are, in my
We're
opinion.
so thankful for that, though. Aren't we thankful that it doesn't say like, I predict inventory will go up? Thank you for making three interesting ones, right?
Well, listen, I think these things are inevitable.
I have two
but
questions
go ahead.
on
Fire
that.
away.
Yeah,
fire
go,
away.
go.
No, fire away, please.
Well, the two questions is Reynolds and Reynolds is acquired. What type of company is looking to acquire a Reynolds and Reynolds? And then two, and maybe to back that up, is why is Salesforce actually interested in a Tekion?
So okay. So let's take those in order, right? So what we don't know is what's going on behind the scenes with the U.S. government suit against Bob Brockman from a tax standpoint, and we don't know how much pressure there might be with the Brockman's estate to settle. So with those two things, is we won't know. But it's inevitable at some point Reynolds will change hands, just because Brockman's gone now, and likely there'll be pressure for family members to get their hands on some of that capital. I suspect. So in terms of answering your question, the interesting thing is CDK Global just went off a process, and they finished the process. Right. Brookfield purchased them for about $8 billion. So what we know is there's a lot of private equity firms out there that have gotten schooled on the DMS space recently that could be potential buyers. And they have big checks, as we saw with Brookfield. So I think it likely ends up not in a strategic hand, but in a private equity that looks at it and says, how can we take this asset, layer on some debt, and make some money by taking it back to market in 3 to 5 years.
Interesting. All right. Salesforce, why do they want Tekion?
Well, look, Salesforce has looked at this category for a long time. And I think for a long time, they're like, it's not big enough to bother with. And the fact that it's so nuanced, right? CRMs in automotive are so specialized that it hasn't been of interest. But we've seen over the last year that Salesforce is getting into auto. And there are a few dealers now that I know of that are actually have moved over from the legacy CRM providers and have moved over to Salesforce as their CRM of record. So they're getting a little bit of traction. I don't know about a lot of traction at this point. So to me, it would make sense. Techion also at some point is going to need to raise more capital, right? I don't know what the state of the capital markets are going to be, but it's not great right now. And when they elect to do so, I think they're going to be a pretty compelling partner potentially for a big player like Salesforce.
There you go. That's the only one that I disagree with on your whole platform, and maybe we can jam on that later because I don't want to get all.
No, lay it on me. Lay it on me. What do you got?
Here's my projection on that. One is I think Techion is actually going for potentially going public, and I also think that Salesforce already has enough of a leg in. The only reason why I would see them acquiring something like Techion, because I don't think that the tech is attractive enough. It's really to gain market share quickly. And so that would be the only reason why I see them going that way, because I believe that the learnings that they're getting from these 4 or 5 dealer groups that are already integrating with it, and now the multitude of demos that Dealer 360 has acquired over the last 3 months since their announcement, they are probably going to have enough learning or technology to enter the market more quickly than Techion could potentially give them the ability to, outside of quick market share and OEM relationships. So there's a couple caveats, but I just don't see it happening now.
Well, in that case, you might be
a year
right.
ago.
I might be wrong, and perhaps the suitor for Reynolds is Salesforce. They can suck a check that big.
They definitely.
Well, then we'll wait those scores at the end of 2023 if that ends up happening. You just had a couple lines mixed up.
Honorable mention for Kyle for sure at the end of
Absolutely. Okay, we're gonna bulk 4 and 5 together. 4 is auto tech valuations reset and dealership valuations drop. Those two seem very connected.
Yeah, and I don't think this is rocket science here, but we're seeing valuation corrections in the public markets. That's coming back into late stage, private companies. Where we invest, which is typically very early seed stage or pre-seed, we haven't really seen a lot of correction yet, but it's inevitable that some of the folks out there who wanted to sell and or raise money in the auto tech space are going to have more of a challenge this year because valuations are coming down. We don't know when they're going to bottom out, but it's definitely a harder market to raise money or sell right now, and we will see this in some of the multiples when we hear about new transactions over the course of the year.
That'll be interesting to see. I want to get through this.
I've got one more prediction to drop in here. We're
going
to skip number
baby.
6. We're going to skip number 6, but my prediction is that you actually use ChatGPT to write the final 4 predictions, of which is included artificial intelligence goes mainstream.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's self-referencing in that case, right? Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it was artificial intelligence goes mainstream. Next wave of auto tech, process automation. So definitely grouped in there. Consolidation of mobility companies and private equity acquires public companies. Which one of those is kind of like you think your hottest prediction for this next year?
Well, this is the year of AI, right? If you've been tracking this stuff, I mean, AI has overpromised and underdelivered in automotive, and no offense to any of the AI companies out there, but I mean, we haven't seen really strong use cases. I think we're starting to see AI now be quote unquote smart enough that I could see a future where effectively you don't need a BDC. And no offense to BDC folks, right? But I mean, you'd have AI that can literally handle the lead all the way through to the potential sale, and it's going to learn so quickly that it can outsmart a human and be more qualified to answer questions than a human might be. So I think this is going to be the year we're going to see tremendous progress in automotive around AI.
Wow.
Well, there you go. I think that's enough. I think we filled people's brains full on a Monday morning. Steve, the blood is probably all gone from your arm from holding your camera up this whole entire time.
Yeah, I'm going back and forth.
We're impressed, but as always, thanks for joining us on the show. Thank you for representing automotive well at CES. We're going to bring a whole posse full of people next year to hang out with you.
No problem. There's a suite. We are very busy out here.
Oh yeah. Which day is this?
So I'm in the middle of Friday right now.
Very nice.
So there's about 2 more days left. 2 more days left.
Woo! That's a marathon right there. Well, thanks for joining us, Steve, as always, and we're going to catch up with you really soon.
Okay, guys. Thank you.